Do you want advice? Might be one of the most powerful questions I have learnt during authentic relating. And I am going to kind of contradict myself a little bit because I'm about to offer you some unsolicited advice. So if you're still here, I am... Well, maybe I'll give you a more explicit choice. If you don't want advice right now, please stop watching. Go about your life and do something else. Go enjoy yourself. If you would like advice, some unsolicited advice from me, please stay and I'll share something. And it's something I share at like the beginning of all of the authentic relating classes that I teach now. And that is this urge, the advice monster, one of my participants called it, the urge that we have to fix other people. Yeah, when somebody else is in what we perceive to be in discomfort, the tendency to move towards them to either fix, rescue, offer advice, or caretake in some way. And the result of that is that it can kill the other person's experience. Now, I am not anti-advice. I think advice, when it is requested and when it is appropriate, can be really, really powerful. And what I notice in my own experience is when somebody receives me with this kind of like fixing energy, and to be fair, like it's often a way of being that I have towards myself to start with. Like I assume that there's a problem. If I'm feeling uncomfortable, if I'm feeling things that I don't like, then there must be a problem that needs to be fixed. And that energy, whether it's internally directed or externally directed, I think, at least for me, gives me the message that there's a problem that needs to be fixed. And so, yeah, I've kind of learnt to like shut off and like push it down and be like, oh, this is an experience that I'm not meant to be having. Which is the opposite of the first practice of authentic relating, which is to welcome everything, that the full range of our humanity is fundamentally okay, and it's kind of the point of being here, at least in my view. And I'll acknowledge, like, I'm pretty good at this now in a workshop setting, but I was on the phone with a very dear friend of mine yesterday who I've not spoken to for a while, and I noticed how I would kind of like seamlessly move from what was a genuine reflection or showing some impact into, oh, and here's something that worked for me, or here's like a little bit of a shift of perspective without asking for consent. And it's something I'm committed to getting better at. So I want to offer you a couple of alternatives, because saying don't give advice is all well and good, but I imagine most of you are not sociopaths, and so when you see somebody that particularly you're close with suffering in some way, you want to help. Okay? So here's a couple of things that might be useful instead. The first is to do nothing. The only thing that you need to do, really, is to be present. Yeah, it's something I fundamentally believe with my coaching. Like, my job isn't to fix people. Sure, offering an alternative perspective from time to time can be useful, but I genuinely think that the people that I work with, my friends, the people in my life, are smart enough to like figure this stuff out on their own. And most of the time what they need is somebody to witness, to listen deeply. And that just requires being present. So present with myself, so noticing the discomfort that I feel when somebody else is suffering, and to stay with them. And that could include, like leaning out of the doing nothing phase, but being present with some active listening techniques, reflection, sharing impact, but really staying with the person's experience. The other thing that you could do is to lean into the authentic relating practice of revealing your experience. Okay? Because the desire to offer advice, to fix, is also part of the human condition. That's an experience that also gets to be welcomed. Yeah, I don't want to shame it. So I can name it. I'm really noticing that I want to give you some advice right now. My advice monster's like waking up. Hey, I don't want to do that. Can I stay present with you? Or would you like me to give you some advice? Yeah, I think I have something that might be helpful. How could I best support you right now? Yeah, so kind of moving from like revealing my experience to getting curious about what might be helpful for this other person. So kind of like checking out the assumptions I have as to whether the thing that I think is useful is actually going to be useful. And to be clear, for me, advice encompasses all sorts of things. So it can be the very explicit, I think you should do this, to, oh God, what I used to get a lot when I was trying to get pregnant was like, have you tried Kambo? Have you tried Chinese medicine? Have you tried standing on your head for 3 hours after you have sex? Like, all of these kind of like random things, and people had no idea what was going on behind the scenes, right? So that's another way you can offer advice. The other kind of more subtle way of offering advice is the kind of, well, this is what worked for me when I was in a similar situation, or this is what one of my teachers said to me, or, yeah, have you tried this supplement? So advice can take lots of different forms, but by slowing down, I think this is the key here, slowing down and staying present to what is happening, and potentially naming it. It's not that like advice isn't necessary. A lot of the times when I say to people, would you like some advice, or can I share my perspective, can I share what worked for me? Yeah. Oftentimes people are really open, because when we're feeling stuck, it is nice to hear a different perspective. But it's never the first thing that I lead with. I always want to check out that I'm understanding somebody properly first. I want to make sure they feel heard. So I want to reflect. I want to share impact. And then if it feels helpful, maybe offering some advice. But I think underneath all of this is the kind of the control, the flavor of perfectionism that's being a control freak. Like I have to manage everything. Yeah, it's my responsibility to make sure that everybody's having a good time, that everything is working as it should be. It's the story that I'm not enough, that I have to fix myself. So yeah, hopefully I've offered you some practical tools for potentially doing something different, but I want to acknowledge that this desire to fix does kind of come from this impulse that I believe I'm not enough, that I kind of project that internalized perfectionism onto other people, that it's not okay to not be okay. And maybe that's a conversation for another day. But in the meantime, please stop trying to fix people. Like, they're good. There's plenty of things that you can do to contribute in the world, but trying to fix everybody else's experience isn't one of them. What you can do is show up for them in a way that supports them in the way that they want to be supported. Yeah, to listen and to ask for consent before you offer advice. So, curious to hear how this lands for you today, and I said it's a practice. I still find myself not doing this all of the time. Not all of the time, lots of the time. So yeah, it takes some intention. Yeah, share any questions you got in the chat, in the thing below, and see you later.